All right, everyone, I've got Joe Random with me today. Joe, nice to meet you. How are you?
Good, Max.
Good.
To be here.
Good. Do you look familiar? Have I seen you somewhere at all?
I'm not sure. Have you?
Well, I'm a big footballer. Have you ever been in football or something?
Well, I used to play football professional for 20 years.
Really? They can get a Joe Random to just play for a big football team?
You're all Joe Randoms until you actually make it as a footballer, so...
Oh, that's fair enough. Well, I brought you along today because I want to show you this Mazda CX-9. And I want to show you specifically because I know that you used to own a car that was very similar to this one, quite a few years older, but I wanted to show you this is what progression looks like. This is what the current marketplace looks like for three-row SUVs. And we spent about 5 minutes just around the car so far.
Yep.
What is your initial impression?
Really liked it. Thought it was a good size. I like the style and the lines on the car.
Okay.
I think it almost has a, you wouldn't call it a sports car, of course, but it has a sleek look, a sporty look. I owned a couple of Mazdas when I lived in the UK many years ago.
Oh, did you?
And you know, they always had that kind of nice sleek look about them, so that kind of attracted me straight away. The lines on the car, the sleek look, plus you've got a good bit of size.
Okay, so then you like the look of the exterior. What about the interior? What do you think of the design in here?
I like it. I think it looks like it's easy access for everything. It looks, the fascia's pretty modern looking. I mean, I like this particular colour as well on the leather, and I assume this is that blows the cool air through the seat.
It's actually only heated seats. There is no option for cooled seats.
Okay.
But option pack that we're in right now is the second best.
Okay.
If you were to go one trim higher, it's kind of like you get some fancy wood around here and a couple extra details. But for most people, if they're looking for the loaded package, they're going to stop here, which is the GT model.
Okay. Well, it's good. It's luxury enough. It doesn't look tacky or too plasticky. And obviously you've got your Bose stereo system as well, which is a nice classy addition.
Absolutely. And for some of the fascinating features in this car specifically is we've got the navigation up on the front here, but you can control all of the different functions with the infotainment with this little dial down here. When you're at a stop, this is actually a touchscreen, but as you're moving along, it doesn't let you play around with it. The system here is very reminiscent of what you would find in something like the premium German brands.
Like the BMWs have got that. Yeah.
Exactly. It looks very similar to it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And for a system like this that works so well, and in my opinion is very logical, it kind of begs the question of what more could you possibly want? And for something like those BMWs, Mercedes, Audis, so on, you know, they pack them with the latest technology and the highest resolution screens, which this car certainly doesn't have. But looking at it now, you don't feel like you've been cut on the cheap end.
No, and I think that's kind of what I was trying to get at earlier, is that it has a luxury feel. The finishings are of a good standard. But obviously you're not going to be paying the same price as one of the prestige brands like the BMW or the Mercedes, and yet you're getting, I think, probably good value for money in something like this. So first impressions, really good, and just even as we're going along here, just that it seems to have a good amount of power in the engine as well. As you've had to accelerate a couple of times, it's not been a strain on the engine.
So saying that, what do you think is under the hood of...
In terms of, would it be a V6 or V8? I don't know, maybe it's a V6, but it feels almost like a V8. Maybe a 3-litre V6.
Okay. This car has a 2.5 litre 4-cylinder engine.
Wow.
It produces 250 horsepower and 310 foot-pound of torque. And the torque is the number that you want in a heavy car like this. This weighs around 4,300 pounds. And the torque comes from something called a dynamic pressure turbo, which is Mazda speak for a turbo that has a very specific approach of how it gets the force induction to deliver that 310 foot-pounds of torque. It's an interesting system, but I don't want to bore you with the details.
Well, you lost me when you said torque.
Well, with this car, you see, like just putting my foot down there, you had that surge.
Power, yeah.
And with this car, it actually provides the best-in-class fuel economy.
I was going to say that must be a big plus.
Right, can you lean over to my side? Can you see this, what's up in my screen here? Up in the windshield?
No.
No?
Oh yes, no I can.
Yeah. So this car has a heads-up display, and obviously you can't see it, but you can line it up for your perfect line of sight, which it is for me. And right now it's displaying speed, but if I had the navigation system on, it would tell me which direction to go, what the speed limit was in that area. So you really never have to take your eyes off the road to look at any of this.
So this thing up here is a computer, I guess.
It's all down here.
Oh, is it down there?
The cameras are all up there that feed back the information. And then also at the front, when we get out the car again, I'll point it out to you, but the Mazda badge, it's actually a screen where they house all of the radar systems, because this car has automatic brakes and a radar-assisted cruise control. So with the automatic brakes, it won't let you have a low-speed crash. If you're crawling along in traffic, it will apply the brakes for you. And then with radar-assisted cruise control, if you're following, I don't know, your wife in the other car, and you always just want to stay on the same tempo, you set the distance that you want through the steering wheel here, and then the car just keeps that distance. So if they speed up, so do you. And if they slow down, so do you.
So it's like an adaptive cruise control.
Exactly. That's exactly what they'd want you to say. And in the time that we've had with this car, does anything stand out to you that you don't like?
I guess even just looking around, I mean, you've got that option of the back
bench there. It does mean that it's a tiny trunk area if you've got those seats up.
Yes.
And it's quite high. I noticed if the trunk powered tailgate goes up, it's quite high to get into. So if you've got a pet or something, you know, a dog you want to hop into the car with, or get the dog to go into the car.
Of course, you've got two dogs. Yeah, that's a good point.
It's quite high. So that would be the one thing. At the same time, I realise that with this particular style of car, you're going to have some height there. So that would be the only sort of drawback I could see at the moment. It's just that kind of trunk size with the third row up is actually quite tiny. Does it have an option to split those seats at all, or is it just one big bench forward?
Yep, all the seats are independent of each other. So if you wanted to get the back row down, you can. If you wanted to get all the ones on the right, you can. So there's plenty of adjustability if you wanted to carry skis or golf clubs or something like that.
Or if you had a dog in the back and you wanted to kind of have a bit extra room down one side for the dog, you could, whilst keeping a third seat in the back area.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Would you call this a comfortable car?
I would say it's very comfortable.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the suspension, it's not like, I mean, it's tight enough. It's not a sports feel, but at the same time, it's tight, and yet you got a softness to the ride as well. So for me, it's a kind of perfect kind of blend. We've gone around a few bends, we've gone over a few bumpy parts, and whilst it's not actually floated over, it's been comfortable enough. And yet, when you've put your foot down and you've needed to handle, it's been quite nice, quite tight.
Mazda's ideology and their catchphrase and everything that they're trying to push is that they want the best driving car in whatever segment of car they're in.
Right.
So this car, they want it to be the best against Ford Explorer, GMC Acadia, those kind of cars. I've only spent a couple hours behind this car, so I don't feel like I'm ready to give my final opinion. But of everything that I have felt behind this wheel, it is giving me confidence as a driver, so that if I wanted to take this corner a little more spiritedly, I could. Let's see what a bit of a rolling speed. So this is 20 kilometers an hour, foot down. So that's 60 kilometers. And you know where you felt just that little bit of hesitation? That was the turbos kicking in. You know, it's impossible to avoid turbo lag with a turbocharged car. And I do think that Mazda does a fair job of trying to cover it up. There's so many limitations to what is physically possible.
So how much would one of these cost? Like this particular car, would it?
This particular car that we have here will set you back $50,000.
Okay.
And again, this isn't the top of the line. I think the top of the line would be around like $54,000. I'll have to double check on that.
So this would be like the Volvo XC90 would be comparable. That's the bigger.
This is still deemed as like an economy class car.
Right, okay.
XC90 is a luxury car.
Right.
But
Size-wise,
they're very similar.
Right. Because the XC90 is a lot more money than this.
Yeah. All right, Joe. Well, I'm here dropping you off at home. So, all in all, if you had to summarize this car in 2 sentences, what would you say?
Good looking, luxury, economical, safe, and good performance.
Well, I thank you so much for taking...
That's not even one proper sentence, is it?
It's all just kind of jumbled together. Well, I thank you for taking the time to coming out and driving with me in the CX-9. Have a fantastic rest of your day.
Thanks, Max.
Have a good day with your footballers family, why don't you?
Thank you. Cheers.